My customer prep sessions when I used to run them were intense. And even now, as a CEO, when a team comes to prepare me for a customer meeting, I still ask a lot of the same questions, which are things like, what is the company's stock price? What's its 52-week high and low? Why? If they're privately held, who owns them? How long have they held them? What's their motivation? Do we understand how quickly revenue is growing? Do we understand if they're profitable? Do we understand their high performing categories? Do we understand their underperforming categories? The great thing about working with public companies is public companies shed a lot of really valuable information. And my experience has been that 90% of salespeople don't take advantage of the information that's available to them. Have you read their filings? Have you read the K and the Q? Have you listened to their earnings reports? What are the analysts asking them about? There's a community of very, very smart people who live in crevices and the shadows and the details of what companies aren't saying. And every 90 days, they get on the phone with them and they ask them the uncomfortable questions. What are those questions? What is the CEO set as a priority? Where's the CFO focused on the balance sheet or the income statement? There's so much information out there that allows you to dissect a business. And private equity has become so pervasive that when a company is privately held, if they are held by bankers, there's generally an operating model or a culture associated with what each firm buys, how long they hold the asset, what they like to sell it for, what they emphasize operationally, what their value creation strategy is. I think you have to start there because ultimately companies exist to make money. And if you don't understand how they make money, how much they're making, and what is either driving that growth or holding it back, you can't really start a conversation because ultimately everything is going to come down to that, right? Don't tell me they've struggled getting a new product to market. Tell me what that means because their current product set is either unprofitable to produce or isn't growing quickly enough. Tell me, don't tell me that they've gone through a riff. Tell me that they've gone through a riff either because they have a very, very clear strategy that's driving resource allocation, or they don't. They're bleeding cash or they're no longer profitable. And so they're reacting first and figuring out the rest later. Um, Everything you do inside a company, whether it is modernizing their supply chain, driving a digital commerce platform, undertaking a finance transformation, looking at planning or liquidity risk or human capital, all of those things come down to something that either isn't going right or could be going better for the company. And until you understand that, you can't really get started. And yet very, very few people ever really start there. And to me, that's the beginning.